Can you tell people a little bit specifically about what everyday spy is? Because I would like to think I'd be a great everyday spy, but I took the test from the website because I don't think it's really my strength. Tell us a little bit about sort of what you have expanded your life to include since leaving being a secret operative.
Absolutely. The most dangerous part about being a CIA officer, a CIA spy, isn't the mission. It isn't being undercover in a foreign country. And that's what the movies make it out to be. It's actually very easy to do that job because you've put a lot of planning and training and practice, and you've prepared yourself for the op. The most dangerous part of a spy's life is everyday living. And for that reason, CIA puts a great deal of emphasis into training us to optimize every day, to improve our sleep, to improve our memory, to improve our fitness, to improve our relationships, to think outside the box, to challenge norms, to see our own cognitive biases, our own cognitive limitations, and then to reprogram or rewire the way that we cognitively look at the world. So it's much more dangerous for a spy to accidentally sign the receipt with their true name than it is for them to have to worry about being shot on a high-speed boat as they shoot through, Venice. So Everyday Spy is my way, my mission of trying to share with the world how spy education and spy skills can be used to break barriers that hold you back every day. Barriers in your relationships, barriers in your finances, barriers in your job, in your career, and overcome them using proven spy methodologies that were given to us when I went through CIA.
Before we get to that, I think Mayim has a few questions just on the life of a spy that I don't think she can hold on to.
Can you explain to people who Andrew Bustamante is?
That's a complicated question because who Andrew Bustamante thinks of himself to be is very different than what the world thinks of Andrew Bustamante. So I will say that in a nutshell, the internet will tell you that Andrew Bustamante is a former CIA intelligence officer, the founder of a company called EverydaySpy.com, and a content creator for YouTube and for digital courses that reach around the world. But if you ask my kids or my wife who Andrew Bustamante is, he's a super geek. He loves his family. He really hates to do anything that makes his hair look nice, and he would really feel much happier just eating ramen noodles and watching serial television shows.
There's so many aspects to your life. I mean, your young life is very interesting. Can you though tell us, how does someone become a CIA spy? Like, what is the path?
It's a great question because there are many different paths, but there's not an infinite number of paths. There's really only three primary paths. You are either recruited, meaning somebody finds you and invites you in, and that happens either through, college campuses recruiting you because you studied a certain science or you studied a certain language. The military will recruit you in because they find you in some military place and you have a specific skill or a specific utility that the CIA needs at any given time. So you can be invited or recruited in. Then the second primary way is that you volunteer, you apply online, or you submit a job application at a job fair, because CIA is at job fairs. And then that application goes through a normal process of being reviewed and being determined. And then the third way is you actually try to do something that's adjacent to intelligence. And then during that parallel process, you're kind of directed or guided to go into the intelligence world. And that third process was how I was pulled into CIA. I was actually trying to go into the Peace Corps. I was trying to travel the world and help innocent starving children and teach microfinance in Africa. That's what I was trying to do. And that's just adjacent to stealing secrets and committing sabotage. So I was pulled into this incredible young life, which makes me a little bit nervous for when we start talking about my old life.
So when you were recruited, had you had any desire to do this, or was it like completely out of the blue? I actually thought of joining the Peace Corps when I was in college, and I was a science student, and they really needed scientists. So I actually learned a bit about it at the time. But were there things about you that you felt, oh, I actually would be suited to keep secrets and kill people. I don't know.
Yes, I love that. I've never had this question posed before. It's actually a really exciting question. If you haven't discovered your natural born spy skills, then somebody else may be using theirs against you. CIA teaches us there are only three types of people: those who manipulate, those who motivate, and those who are being controlled by one of the other two. I built a 3-minute CIA-style quiz designed to help you unlock your secret psychological advantage and identify your biggest blind spot. This quiz will help you weaponize your natural gift and use it to get ahead of 99% of people in power, money, and purpose. Click on the first link in the description below or scan the QR code on your screen right now to take the test. I want you to discover your hidden spy skill and use it before someone else uses theirs against you. I was one of those kids, like younger than 13 is what I'm talking about, kid. I was one of those kids that like wanted to be everything: astronaut, police officer, doctor, CIA spy, fireman, all of it, right? And I thought that the sky was the limit. I could do it all. Well, then I went into the military and I was categorically disqualified from being an Air Force intelligence officer. And it was because the Air Force didn't need intelligence officers. There was an attitude in 1999 that intelligence wasn't that important, that it was much more important to have pilots and much more important to have, people who flew airplanes or did navigation. That was the predominant need until 9/11. And 9/11 happened when I was still in uniform, and it kind of changed the attitude about intelligence. So when CIA picked me out of the pool of what could have been a world healer with the Peace Corps, when 2007 came along and I was recruited, I had never even considered being part of CIA. I thought that if I couldn't do a military intelligence, for sure I couldn't do CIA intelligence. So I was more excited and giddy that like somebody was interested in me. It was kind of like dating, right? I was like, oh, somebody thinks I'm cute. And that's essentially what made me say yes to go the next step in the process.
So before we continue on this trajectory, was it a good thing that the government wanted to date you?
They were an abusive partner, but it did turn out well for me.
How long were you in the CIA in this capacity?
I served with the National Clandestine Service for 7 years, and then I left in 2014. And in 2014, I left service, but I still had a commitment to remain legally adherent to what the CIA said my cover job was. So it took another 2 years before I could actually be out.
And you and your wife you were like a Mr. and Mrs. Smith?
My wife and I were both from CIA. We were both in the National Clandestine Service. That's correct. It's not nearly as cool as the movies make it out to be.
You're lying. It sounds really cool.
It had cool parts.
It
had cool parts.
It's like sexy.
Nothing is sexy after you have your first child, but everything before that was pretty cool.
When you think of your average college student who wants to like join the Peace Corps, I wouldn't think that's a natural transition to then be an undercover CIA agent. Did you like know a lot of things and have an interest in that world? Or once you were recruited into that world, did you then start acquiring all of this knowledge that you need to have to do that? Because I lie like a dog. Like you can tell when I'm lying, like I'm not good at secrets. It makes me uncomfortable. I find it, morally challenging to keep secrets, like I don't, are those skills that, like I said, you were already like, oh, I could be a secret person? Or did you become that once you were recruited?
So it's a mix, actually. And you hit on a number of really important parts in your question. So CIA, people come to CIA from all different walks of life. Like I said, some are recruited, some volunteer, some are on parallel paths and then cross over. But just because they're invited to come to CIA doesn't mean they qualify to stay at CIA.
It's like Men in Black?
Sort of, yes. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised that we keep coming back to TV and movie references.
It's all I got, bro. I know nothing about the CIA except what television and movies have taught me.
So if you recall, during Men in Black, they put Will Smith through a series of tests to see how he would respond. And one of the most famous tests is when like an alien pops out or a little girl pops out with a gun and he doesn't shoot the little girl's like
And he knew
cutout.
all the things. So he clocked all the things that like only he could catch.
Correct. Now, if you recall, part of that was because the Will Smith character talked about his childhood and growing up and how he learned on the street, how to see things differently. That is very real for the real CIA. CIA is looking for people who are just enough messed up in the head that they can skip ahead in a lot of the training. One of the terms that we use is called moral flexibility, which is exactly why you have a hard time lying, Em.
Sorry, moral flexibility? That just means you can lie.
It means a lot more than that. It means if you sat across from a person, you wouldn't want to hurt that person. But if that person threatened to hurt someone in your family, you would have no issue immediately hurting that person before they could hurt someone you
don't
love.
know what kind of bleeding heart liberal I am, but okay.
Well, now you're learning what kind of literal, like bleeding heart I am not. And not only that, but you also have to be able to sleep at night. So you have to be able to lie to the face of a terrorist or a child prostitute pimp, right? You have to be able to lie to their face to get them into a situation where they might get hurt or captured or killed in pursuit of some larger cause to protect Americans. And then you got them in that situation. You go home, you kiss your daughter on the forehead, you eat a pork chop, you go to sleep, you wake up the next day and you do it again. That's moral flexibility. It's not just, I'm going to lie on my tax return, right? It's, I'm going to lie knowing that it's going to get somebody else hurt.
How do they test for that?
There's a multi-tiered psychological aptitude battery that we go through. And it's different types of psychological exams. Some of them are panel interviews. Some of them are one-on-one role plays where you have people who sit behind an invisible wall who watch and assess. There's, of course, an actual empirical rubric test that we take. It's many, many hours and interrupted throughout the day. So it's a lot like your like standardized testing in elementary school and middle school, amped up. And then each of those tests happen with a time space in between. So there's a time delimiter. You'll start on day 1, and then you'll come back and take the second part of the test on day 70, and then you'll come back and take the final part of the test on day 120. And you're constantly assessed through multiple different venues and multiple different people along the way.
When you think about people who lie, there's a lot of talk on the interwebs about like, I was dating a narcissist, right? And one of the things that, is a hallmark of narcissism is often, I don't know, moral flexibility or, an ease with being dishonest and kind of perpetuating lies. Where does that fall in terms I'm not saying those people need to be spies, but I'm curious from what you know about moral flexibility, how does that apply to kind of normal everyday people who encounter people who lie to them?
It's a great point. And, it's hard to talk about it in generalities. So I'm going to get a little bit geeky, right? Narcissism is just one version of something that's called antisocial personality disorder. And underneath the umbrella of antisocial personality disorder is narcissism and socialism, or psychopathy and sociopathy, right? Or sociopathy. So you got these different categories that we use to describe people who are essentially just antisocial to a level that is considered to be a disorder. Well, here's the truth of it. We're all fucking antisocial. Nobody likes people. We like some people. We like the people who like us, and we like the people who think like us and like our music and like our food, but nobody likes a stranger until the stranger proves that they have something in common with the person, right? It's against our very core survival instinct. We don't trust new people. We don't like new people. So what happens is some of us are kind of grown in our formative years in an environment where we learn to trust secrets and lies more than we learn to trust the people around us. Well, now, if you advance that life into their early 20s and early 30s, some people are able to remain protective, self-preservational, without creating a disorder that puts them at the center of their world. They still have loyalties and obligations and personal values. A narcissist goes too far. A narcissist has been damaged psychologically to the point where they truly believe they are the center of their universe and they cannot identify their own shortfalls. Whereas somebody who just doesn't fit into society, right? A sociopath still has loyalties and values, and they value their church, possibly. They value their family. They value their education. They value something more than themselves, but they still break the rules of society. All of that psychological battery that CIA puts us through, it's not to find the smartest person. It's to find the few people who are already wired with just the right cocktail of fucked upness and loyalty, obligation, and yet still seeking validation from outside. Because once you find that person, boom, they will do anything for $25,000 bonus every year.
That's very helpful. My question is, are all CIA operatives of this category similar in that sense? Like, can you say, oh, this one might come from a, white upper class family in Connecticut, and this person might come from the streets of, Echo Park or whatever. But is this generally what the profile is? And is that the best way to get the job done? Or is it the best way for the government to be able to control such people?
It's a great two-part question. So I'll answer the first question first, and then the second part second, right? Yes, it is a profile that is predictable among CIA field officers. Now, CIA has field officers, analysts, linguists, logisticians. It's got lots of different operators. But when you're talking about what we call a core collector is a person who goes out there and their job is to collect information direct from human sources. A core collector has to be skilled at lying, has to be skilled at manipulation, has to be able to keep multiple lying and manipulating relationships in order simultaneously, right? That person absolutely fits the profile that we just laid out, Em, right? That whether they grew up in a white privileged neighborhood or an inner city African-American neighborhood, it's not about their socioeconomic status. It's about the psychological imprint that happened to them when they were young. Did they feel like daddy loved them, or was daddy always gone, getting on a coke high because he ran a hedge fund? Or daddy was never there because he was gangbanging? Who knows, right? We don't know why daddy wasn't there, but the kid certainly feels like he didn't earn dad's love. And now he has to try extra hard to earn that external validation. So that's the answer to your first question. The second part is that the best way? I would say that the government doesn't try to think about what the best way is. They try to think about what is the most pragmatic way. So when it comes to having to constantly recruit new officers, new operatives, and bring them up to a basic level of capability before you deploy them all over the world, where some will get killed, some will get captured, some will be spectacular at their job, right? The government doesn't want to spend 5 years creating super soldiers, but the government also doesn't want to spend 3 weeks putting somebody through basic police training, right? So they find this natural balance where in about 9 months, they can take a person off the street and train them to a basic capability for intelligence core collection. But that 9-month window only happens if they pull from the profile that you and I just talked about. If they went to a different profile, it might take 13 months or 18 months. If they pulled from a more violent profile, it might take 6 months or 4 months. But they've found this balance over time.
I've seen those movies too. Here's a question. Does the government know that you're telling people all of the things that you're telling us?
Yes, the government knows, and they have a mixed reaction to it. Sometimes I get pats on the back. Sometimes I get hate mail. Sometimes I get these reminders in my inbox that say, just a reminder from CIA's Friendly Office of Personnel that you have a lifetime secrecy agreement and you will be prosecuted under the full confines of the law if we find that you violate your secrecy agreement. So that's why I don't tell secrets. I just
I
tell
want
facts.
some. Can we talk around secrets?
I mean, I'm comfortable with lying. I'll just tell you something's a secret if you like.
Oh, for Pete's sake. How am I supposed to talk to you at all? You could be lying about everything.
But instead of facts, what you share a lot is strategies and the techniques that were instilled. And I'm actually surprised that they're even open to allowing you to share these training mechanisms, the ways in which that you succeeded in your spy work, because it does have, number one, it kind of pulls the veil back on how they're training operatives and what the skill set is. And two, it does have some huge implications to people who are not spies, which maybe they don't want them to have those skills.
Yeah, it's a great point, Jonathan. And you know, what happened to me, it was my personal experience leaving CIA that put the dots together for me on this. CIA doesn't create top secret training methods. It doesn't create top secret life improvement hacks. What it does is it goes out into leading research universities and it pulls cutting edge research, and then it implements that research into its training rubric. So the ways that we're trained and the ways that we're taught and the tools and techniques that we get for fighting anxiety, for reducing stress, for increasing our memory, those are not top secret CIA methods. Those were things that came from Harvard or Princeton or Cambridge, and they came to us by way of our training program, but they're not classified. And because of the government bureaucracy,
I don't know what you're talking about. What bureaucracy?
classification has a very specific definition, and I'm able to skirt that definition. So I adhere to my secrecy agreement, but I'm still able to pull back the veil, like you said, Jonathan, and that's a very powerful veil.